back to another episode of the TFR Podcast. We are back today to review the 2025 Las Vegas Grand Prix that has just happened this last weekend, and then we'll be later on looking ahead to the penultimate round of the season, the Qatar Grand Prix, where a certain Lando Norris could be crowned world champion if things go his way this weekend. However, it didn't quite go his way in Las Vegas. A dramatic post-race double disqualification for McLaren has potentially thrown the championship back wide open once again, just when you think it was all done and dusted. I'm joined by JP and Tudor on today's episode. And JP, I'll go to you first, as it's been a while since you've been on the pod. And just like I was saying, we thought the championship was done and dusted. It was in Norris's hands, and it still is. But Verstappen and Piastri now have been given a lifeline with this double disqualification.
Yeah, surely. When I was done the last podcast, it was before the Netherlands Grand Prix, so it was like about 100 points deficit at that point. And right now, we look at it, he's already level on points with Oscar and the 24 points behind Lando Norris. So, yeah, a great effort from Red Bull. Surely they make mistake here and there, but McLaren did do a big bottle job there in Las Vegas.
Yeah, they absolutely did. And to kind of explain to people why they were disqualified, because I think some people are still asking that question. If you're not a full-on die-hard F1 fan, it was to do with the plank wear. It's something that teams like Ferrari have already been caught out with this year. They had both cars disqualified in China, and it's to do with how much is left of the plank, if you like, the kind of wooden bit underneath the car, and there should be 9 millimeters left. It's technically 10, but they give 1 millimeter of kind of letting you off, if you like. But both McLarens had multiple kind of parts of the plank that were below this 9 millimeter rule. And it is a bit of a black and white. You know, you are disqualified and chucked out of the results if you're found guilty. And like I say, we've seen it quite a few times. You particularly see it on, maybe bumpy circuits. And it's down to how much the teams want to risk it. They want performance gain, and they don't want to go too conservative because they'll lose performance. And this is potentially what McLaren have done in previous races, such as Austin, where they've gone a bit more conservative and they've lost performance from that. But, Tudor, it seems as though they've took a bit of a crazy risk here, and they've completely misjudged things. They've blamed it on the fact that they didn't really have much practice sessions to get a proper grip of things. But what do you make of the whole situation? Is this a massive mistake from McLaren, or is it just, an unfortunate timing with it all?
I mean, yeah, it clearly is a mistake from them. In the practice sessions, they didn't look promising. They didn't even have a lot of time to practice, but when they did, they just weren't at the top. So I think they tried to go too far, too low with the car so they can have the most performance, but they went too far, just like Ferrari. They just didn't know how the car will perform in long runs. I think the longest run they did was 4 laps in the practice session. So yeah, it was just they were going in blind.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, and that is the only reason to kind of explain why they got this so wrong. I mean, on Piastri's car, I think it was way off. It was way off the kind of requirements of how much wear you're allowed. And I think the thing is, JP, I just don't quite understand the risk with Lando's car. He's in a pretty good position in the championship and had a comfortable gap, if you like, to Piastri and Verstappen. But by doing this, they've completely opened the door again to the others.
Yeah, surely. And also, my big question is, why did they do that in Las Vegas? Surely we know it's a wet quali, but there isn't really that much of, let's say, long, fast corners where you can really push and use the ground effect a lot. It's not like somewhere in Silverstone or somewhere like this week Qatar. You can push the car really down and you gain a lot. You don't really gain a lot from that in Las Vegas. So, and to be fair, they did tell Lando to live and coast from around lap 5 or 10. So he's been saving a lot in turn 7, turn 10, turn 11 during the race. But they didn't tell Oscar to do it. That was like another really suspicious for me. So yeah, I don't really understand why they take the risk.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right about the kind of lifting coasting, because obviously towards the end of the race for Lando Norris, he was currently running in second at the time and obviously finished in second, which was a great result at the time. But he had to dramatically slow down in the closing laps, and it wasn't made clear particularly what the issue was at that point. But you always kind of feel, Tudor, when stuff like that is kind of heard over the radio, there's a bit of alarm bells ringing in terms of, well, what is the actual problem there? And then obviously in the end, it didn't do anything. It's, whatever problem they had, whether it was to do with fuel or whether it was related with this plank wear issue, it didn't change anything. Do you think now Norris, I mean, he's still very much, it's all in his hands, but is this potentially giving Verstappen more of a chance now? Or is it, I mean, in a sense of like, who do you see more likely to keep this going to Abu Dhabi, Verstappen or Piastri?
I think
Um,
Piastri won't be able to recover, honestly. It's the end of the season. I mean, yeah, it's been more of a blessing than a curse that he also got disqualified, because Lando could have been 40 points ahead after Las Vegas rather than 24. But at the same time, he will now have the pressure of Verstappen being on equal points with him as well. But I just think McLaren in general, they're too ambitious. They went too risky. They told Norris after he passed Russell to go after Verstappen, when he could have just stayed in P2 and pretty much secured the championship. But they told Norris to push after Max, and after that they told him to lift and coast. Many of us, yeah, thought was a fuel problem, but after that, it just turned out to be the plank. And I've even saw in the post-race interviews that Norris wasn't the happiest. He probably knew something was gonna come up.
Yeah, and you're right. There's signs were there with Lando on the kind of podium and everything. There's multiple kind of pictures now of him kind of like looking a bit downbeat. And don't get me wrong, he is the kind of driver that even if he wins the race, he's not exactly screaming over the radio and like jumping in the air. But yeah, there definitely seemed like there was something up, wasn't there, JP? I mean, do you think they knew at that point, or do you think like they didn't know until the actual verdict? I mean, what would you kind of guess with that one?
to be honest, I think they know pretty full clear that it will happen. Maybe it will, like, the liquor shouldn't start like from lap 7, lap 8. That's, you're saving the tires a bit because I remember at the start of the race, Georgia and Max were pushing like quite hard. They are setting green sectors, purple sectors all the way, and Lando just couldn't keep up. I thought it was the pace problem at first, which McLaren does not favor in Las Vegas over the last past 2 years, but it seems like it should be the problem with the car. And right now, the way Lando, his facial expression, if anyone remember when they get into that big pink Cadillac, he's sitting in the middle. He's not really happy about P2. I think like he's sitting there. He's look a little bit intimidating. Well, for me that looks a little bit suspicious.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating what this kind of means now as well, and what also McLaren do from here, because obviously there's also reports that have came out that in Brazil they were a little bit touch and go as well, and in the end it was still fully legal. It was checked and everything, but it was still fairly tight. So this is obviously something that they have changed since Austin, because that's been very well clearly made that they went very safe on that, and they suffered a lot from it. Potentially, I think they said up to 2/10 a lap that they lost from increasing, the ride height of the car or the pressure of the tires, etc., etc. What do we think, Tudor, in terms of Qatar and Abu Dhabi? Is this going to be the Achilles heel for McLaren, or is it maybe a question of just finding out what happens here?
I think Norris still has the championship in the bag, honestly. There must have been, I mean, we said before Vegas that there has to be a miracle for Verstappen to win the championship, which kind of happened with the double disqualification, but in my opinion, it isn't enough. There's still a 24-point gap. Yes, there is a sprint, so that's more chance for points. But let's say Max wins Norris P2, that's 1 point. There's still 23 points left. If Norris comes second in the sprint and the both two races, he still wins the championship. And I honestly don't see him being outside the podium unless there's somehow a car problem like in Vegas.
Yeah, I think this is the point. Qatar should, on paper, be a good track for McLaren, and Norris did dominate at Abu Dhabi last year. So if Norris continues the good form that he's actually in, because he has been on a really good run of late, then yeah, you would expect him to very much secure the championship. The state of play with the championship is obviously 2 points that Norris needs to gain over Verstappen and Piastri, who are both equally 24 points behind the championship leader. So fairly straightforward. However, we do have a sprint race this weekend in Qatar, and so there's extra points up for grabs there. What do you think then about Verstappen's chances, JP? He had a great race in Vegas and a fantastic victory, you'd have to say, just to add to the collection of wins that he's had this season. And he really kind of played it well in terms of the way that start went. Norris was more aggressive this time and paid the price, and then Verstappen never looked back really after that point. Do you think this is a thing of he's just got to keep winning every single race and then just hope for more chaos, or can he do something else to kind of get himself closer here?
Yeah, surely you can. To be honest, I expect a bit of chaos in this year's Qatar because the mandatory two-stop, or we said it, because we have to pit like for lasting 20 laps, which means like McLaren's pit stop are not the greatest this year. Like we can see from a lot of this time, especially the latter half of the season, which is, well, they fumbled a lot, and also with the ride thing, I feel like this may triple McLaren a little bit, and it's indeed a track which Oscar was kind of on the same pace with Lando, so McLaren will have to make the decision, like they have to play the Paparos again, which could potentially give Max another chance. And I dare say the chance of two McLaren drivers touch and go like what they did in Singapore and Canada will potentially be higher.
Well, this is the thing. We have seen incidents at Qatar before, and we'll obviously fully get into that later on in this episode, but it's going to be definitely something to watch. What's your thoughts on Verstappen, Tudor, in terms of his play? We've obviously heard from JP there, but do you think, he's in the form at the minute to kind of close in on Norris? I'm not necessarily saying, overturn it, but at least keep it going till Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, I think so. Since Monza, he's been keeping going. Qatar, we know he likes Qatar. He won every race at Qatar except in 2021 where Lewis won it. Now, he may like the track, but honestly, the Red Bull car has gotten better, but we don't know if it will like Qatar, especially in the hot conditions, because I don't think we had any race in the desert since Monza where the Red Bull car did get better. So that may stun him a bit and slow him down, but I honestly think, yeah, he likes both Abu Dhabi and Qatar, so he has a high chance to win. He's just, again, like Norris, he needs to have no problem with the car.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will find out what happens there, but bringing it a little bit more back to Vegas, it was a great result for Mercedes because of this double McLaren DSQ, and it ended up Russell was already on the podium. He then ended up earning a second place finish, with then Kimi Antonelli finding himself on the podium spots somehow after gaining 14 positions in the race, and on a bit of a crazy one-stop strategy. He made it work, and he had a penalty on top of that as well, which initially obviously dropped him behind Piastri. Didn't matter a thing in the end, because obviously with those McLarens getting chucked out, the results, Antonelli was obviously promoted 2 positions up to end up 3rd. What a drive from him, JP. And again, Antonelli really kind of bringing his form into play here. Of like, he was really inconsistent for a chunk of the season. And probably when you last did a podcast, we were saying that, oh, is he really, right for Mercedes? Is he kind of, supposed to be this top driver with great potential? Well, now he is kind of delivering on some of that potential.
Yeah, surely. As he is still a rookie, I do feel like Kimi have delivered some of bit his talent and potential inside his car a bit more in the latter part of season. I feel like his driving style is significantly different from George. He's driving more like a karting side because he like to rotate a car a lot more than George, and the George is more on the smooth side, which you can see he progressively on his steering wheel. But yeah, Kimi should be. I have a really bold suspect that Kimi will be faster than George next season.
Oh,
Actually, so yeah, I think I don't expect him to do like very well in the last 2 races. He's been a bit up and down for this season. It's quite normal as a rookie. You can say that not everybody is Lewis Hamilton. So yeah, we maybe don't just give him too much expectations, and he will perform well. Yeah.
Interesting. I think that's a bit of a hot take, JP. Antonelli to do better over the season than Russell next year. Do you agree with that, Tudor? Not to put you on the spot.
I mean, there is a possibility. It depends on the car as well, because there will be a whole new car, and Russell might not like the car, Kimi might like it, they both might like it, they both might not like it. But yeah, Kimi has gotten really close to Russell in this later part of the season. He finished 7 seconds behind George, and technically would have been 2 seconds without the 5-second penalty. So he's just getting every race closer and closer to him as in terms of pace.
Okay. I kind of do think that Russell still has that edge over Antonelli over the course of a season, personally. I think Antonelli is still a little bit rough around the edges, but he's on a great run. There's no doubt about it. I think he is definitely starting to get a hold of things at Mercedes. A driver that's definitely not getting the hold of things is a certain Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion over at Ferrari. It is going from bad to worse for him at the minute. He did score a couple of points in the end, but that really wasn't the talking point of the weekend. It was more qualifying. I think I saw a stat maybe that it was his worst ever qualifying on pure pace in his entire career, and he was absolutely rock bottom. P20 in the wet qualifying conditions that we had in Vegas, and missed the line. The kind of checkered flag, or the lights kind of went red just kind of after he went across, and he kind of backed off whilst the guys on the radio were saying for him to keep going. It was just a bit of a messy weekend for Lewis, and I mean, he kind of came out with this quote that it's been a bit of a nightmare season for him. This is on track to be the first ever time in his career that he's not been on the podium in a particular season. What's going on here, JP? Is it a car thing, or is it potentially a driver thing as well? Has Lewis completely, lost that edge in terms of pure outright pace?
No, Lewis definitely hasn't lost his pace. Like, no driver will just don't know how to drive within a season, or suddenly knows how to drive within a season. It's not. It's just the Ferrari car just didn't click on him. Ferrari, I'll read on some kind of report thing like the other day. It says like Ferrari's brake is kind of like neutral brakes. You have to really use the engine braking for the braking. Well, Mercedes, you can really jam on it with a lot of initial forces, and it is completely different. But I do feel like this is more like a transition year for Lewis. It's not a bad thing that he came to Ferrari this year, as next year I remember there also Mercedes was going to that direction. So yeah, he had to deal with that anyway. So might as well be this year, as next year's car will be like completely different. And yeah, I hope we see the Lewis that we can see from the past as soon as we can, as he is a 7-time world champion. Nobody doubt his ability, his skill, and his pace. Um, just just really need the right tools and right environments. Well, the Ferrari is based on an Italian team, and they got this really. You maybe can say toxic, you maybe cannot, but it's really different to what the British people like to do things. So yeah, it may take Lewis a while, but next year will be the year to decide Lewis' career.
Interesting. The question is though, will it? I'm not too sure, JP. I'm not sure anymore that he's quite got that qualifying pace. What is giving you the hope that that is going to change for next year?
Well, next year everybody gets it like completely different in car. It's not like it. It's not like jumping from 2018 to 2019, which you just only cancel all the end plays. Or you go from 2017 to 2018. You only cut the shock hood. It was like a big regulation changes, and yeah, like I said, also the last time Lewis got a big transition within a team was 2013 to 2014. Got such a big regulation changes, and he got his second world championship. So yeah, stakes are quite high right now. So it's all him to lose, but he's still a 7-time world championship, and you can see Fernando is still able to deliver that much in this age. So you never know. It may be just you need the right click on him.
Well, that's the thing. You never know, indeed. Although I just feel like I hear what you were saying, but I feel like a lot of that is depending on the car. And I think, like,
Yeah.
in a straight fight with Leclerc, I just can't see it. I can't see it. I think Leclerc's had something like 7 podiums this season to Hamilton's 0. And I don't know. Maybe his motivations are not quite there. What do you make of the discussion, Tudor? How do you see things with Hamilton? Is there a way back here?
I mean, yeah, I'm on your side. I think it's a mix of both. Yeah, the SF25 is a very big letdown, but Leclerc has managed to get many podiums. Hamilton not even one. I think his outing in Q1 was the first Ferrari in Q1 out since Abu Dhabi 2009, which is
Good start.
quite a long,
Yeah.
yeah, which is quite a long time ago. And it was not like Max, where no, I mean, it was like Max on pure pace, but honestly, the Ferrari didn't look that bad at Vegas. Like they looked much worse at other tracks, and they didn't get out in Q1. He's even at Mercedes in like 2023 and 2024. Russell was just beating him quite quite consistently, and I think I mean, yeah, Lewis might like the new regulation more since the ground effect will be gone. But yeah, also it's completely new. Never been a regulation like this, so he might also not like it. But honestly, yeah, I don't think his pace definitely went naturally with his age. I think he still got it. I think he can still like win races and get podiums, but I don't know for an eighth world title.
Yeah, I think that could be rather tricky. It does kind of beg the question of, like, should he have ever left Mercedes? Like, I know there's the whole thing of Hamilton and Ferrari, and there's the kind of, fame of it, and the kind of stardom element of, it's a 7-time world champion driving for the most successful team. And I kind of feel like when you see where Mercedes are at now and how they could be next year, for Hamilton, I don't know. I feel like if he just stayed at that team, I mean, he was getting beaten by Russell a little bit, last year, but he picked up 2 wins last season, Tudor. I mean, surely it would have been the right decision to stay where he was.
Yeah, I think he should have stayed there because Mercedes looks the most promising. Their engine looks the most promising for the 2026 regulation. Ferrari, There are some good news about their engine, but they're mostly just meh or bad. They don't look very promising, and I understand that it was his dream to like drive for Ferrari, but and maybe they promised him that, like they promised us, the fans, that we'll make a completely new car for 2025 and it will be a championship contender. But they just completely butchered it. They should have kept to their old design and changed it up a bit for the new season. And
Yeah,
yeah, honestly, I think the move to Ferrari was kind of a mistake.
that's the thing. You were saying there of Hamilton having the dream of racing for Ferrari, and I don't even need to make this up, but his words are of it being a nightmare now. So we'll see if he can get out of that for next season. And yeah, it's just a thing now of just probably getting to the end of this championship and then forgetting about this god awful Ferrari that it has been. There's no getting away from it. The car has been terrible and has looked nowhere near winning a race all the way through this 2025 championship. Elsewhere, it was a great drive from Carlos Sainz. He's picked up a fifth place finish in the end after those disqualifications, seventh on the road, but had a great qualifying JP and was third in those very wet conditions. And it's crazy, isn't it, how Carlos was struggling at the start of the season. Albon was the better driver, you'd have to say, hands down. And now it's done a complete 180, and it's the other way around. Explain that one to me.
Yeah, obviously, Alex has been in the team for around 2-3 years, I think. He's been there since 2022, I think. Yeah, 2022. It's been 3 years within the team. He's familiar with the car, how the car handles, how the car feels, how to push this car on a regular basis to its limits. So yeah, it's kind of hard work for Carlos to get in grips quickly. But you can see from the results right now, Alex hasn't scored in the last five races, and Carlos has scored in all of these five races. So yeah, it was a bit of a 180-degree turnaround, and yeah, Carlos himself is not a slow driver. We never doubt that, I believe. He kind of has that material and the ability to adapt in kind of mixed conditions as he got an old record as the all the races he won in the remember it's Formula Renault or yeah, Formula Renault 3.5. He won all races in the wet. So yeah, it was quite mind blowing if we think about that. Yeah, so I believe Carl's form will become better and better, and the Williams will become even faster next season, which will tend to bring Alex have a bit of an even bigger challenge because Alex, let's say he doesn't have a really competitive teammate before he only got Latifi and the Sargent as his teammate, which well they are both great drivers, but Carlos is a big
Yeah,
higher level
bit
than
of a step
surely.
up.
Yeah, a better step up, which a better driver will give you a bigger challenge, maybe some motivations, but it surely will give you some bigger pressures.
Yeah, and you'd have to say Albon is struggling with that at the minute. But Carlos, what a drive from him to kind of just be that front runner in the midfield in the race, and then obviously be right up there and in the mix for pole position in qualifying. What's your thoughts on Albon, Tudor? Is this bad run of form now just from that element of Carlos doing better, or is it just one of those things that happens during a long season where people go through their purple patches and then go through a bad streak? What do you think's going on there?
I think Albon is struggling a bit under pressure, and even last year when Colapinto drove for
Oh yeah,
Williams for the last two races, he was stressing quite a bit. At Vegas last year, I think Colapinto went for a dive bomb. He managed it, and Albon was complaining that a bit it was too dirty, but there was nothing wrong with it. Yeah, so yeah, like GP said, he had no competition for two and a half years, and suddenly when Colapinto and Sainz showed up, he actually had to work for something. So I think it's just pressure because at the start of the year when Sainz was still getting learning the car, he was getting top fives quite consistently. But now with Sainz just beating him, I think it's a bit of frustration from him, and it might just bring his mood down.
Yeah, I think so, and it's going to be interesting where Williams kind of stack up next year, and if we believe that the Mercedes engine could be very good, Williams will obviously be a massive beneficiary of that. So, yeah, Albon needs to kind of stop this run of kind of getting beaten badly by Sainz, because going into next season, if it stays the way it is right now, then Albon, you'd have to start to be a bit worried for him in terms of being that leader in that team, because he's certainly not now. It's obviously an equal kind of lineup there, but he doesn't equally want to slip behind Carlos and become a bit of a support driver, because at the minute, with the way those results have gone recently, he's just been absolutely nowhere near it. So we'll see. He had a great start to the season, and there could still be time for things to change for Albon. But elsewhere, in terms of results, we obviously kind of had the midfield kind of battle going on once again. We had Hadjar in the points, but then I'm trying to quietly bring it up here. Remind me, somebody, who else was in the points whilst I drag up the results?
Hulkenberg
Yeah.
and the two Hasses.
Two
They got
Hasses, that was
9
that,
and
yeah.
10.
The 2 Houses.
So the where I was going with that is there's obviously a bit of a change in the constructors now. We have had it's Haas. They've jumped ahead of Aston Martin for 7th in the constructors standings. I also think RB might have also recently jumped ahead of Aston Martin, but I don't think that was quite this weekend because Hadjar did only score 8 points. But a word on Haas jumping Aston Martin. Is this a thing of Aston Martin just kind of giving up a bit on this season? What's going on there, JP? I mean, Haas, really, they've turned a great corner. I mean, in some ways, this is turning out to be a good idea to just bring some new parts for the end of the season, because now they've jumped up quite a few places.
Well, it doesn't really have to be the new pass, I believe. Ollie is a great driver. We have to say that. We saw his performance last year in F2. He can like really qualify Kimi also, which we already established. We can know got talent. So we can fairly decent say Ollie is a very fast driver. Maybe lacks a bit of a consistency, like Kimi in the first part of season. You know, that very unnecessary crash in free practicing in Silverstone, and some kind of crash here and there, and got a lot of penalty points. Yeah, but he always showed the pace, as we also like in Brazil quali. He managed to nearly tops the timing in Q1 and Q2 both times. And yeah, he got great pace, and also Esteban Ocon, he's a F1 race winner already, so no one doubt his pace around the car. Maybe he's a little bit like down on the momentum these days, but he's still quite a fast driver. Back to the point on AMR, I feel like Lance, except this race, let's say this is this Las Vegas qualifying is kind of like he was just quick, like out of nowhere. Like we just last row sees the rain, he goes flat out. And yeah, but the rest of the season was just it was even below mediocre. It was just not good enough for him. And for Fernando, once the frustration build up, and like he's saying this race's interview, he just don't want to drive the car anymore. So yeah, a bit of frustration from the Aston Martin and the and with the Adrian Newey becoming the team principal, they might have a new shift towards momentum, and look forward to next year. Just
yeah, that was the big news in the last day or so. Is Adrian Newey is the new team principal at Aston Martin. Andy Cowell has obviously moved to a different position within the team, but Adrian Newey as a team principal, I didn't expect to see that on Tuesday morning or whenever that announcement was. What do you make of that, Tudor? Sorry, do you think this is going to be a good move for Aston Martin? I mean, Adrian Newey isn't normally, well, he never has been a team principal. He's usually a man behind the scenes at the drawing board, making sure that all the best possible parts are coming to the car. Is this the right thing, or is this maybe a personal preference from Adrian here where he wants to do something different?
I think this can potentially be a really good move. Yeah, he hasn't never been a team principal, but he's been around very big teams. He's been in the 90s at Williams, then in the 2010s at McLaren's, and after that with Red Bull. And if I remember, at Williams and McLaren, he actually got permitted a bit of power to. At Williams, he actually got had a bit of power to decide which driver gets picked and who leaves and whatsoever. Yeah, okay, he has no experience with being a team principal, but he's been up there. He's gathered all the experience from Horner, from Ron Dennis, and whoever was at Williams in the 90s. So, and with all their mistakes, again, he can learn from them, from all Christian's mistakes, from Ron Dennis's mistakes, and he knows not to repeat them. Even though he's in the background at the table, I think he could be a really good leader. Especially, he's more harsh, so it's gonna be for both Alonso and Stroll. It's a kind of wake up call, especially for Stroll, because if he's gonna keep underperforming, even though he's the team owner is his dad, now that New Eve has practically the most power over the team, he might manage to convince Stroll's dad to finally let him go. Same with Alonso as well. Yeah, he's at Aston Martin. He's the better competitor, but he's not really performing that well as well.
Well, this is the point, and obviously Fernando's contract expires at the end of next season, and Aston Martin are branching out. In the WEC program now. Maybe there could be something there for Lance Stroll to go and do, because surely if they want to be a big team in F1 and contending for championships with the new Honda engine coming in as well, they've got to get two drivers that are in the mix for titles and race wins. So yeah, going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how Adrian Newey does in that kind of new position, and obviously he's been at the team now basically all of this year and been working away at that 26 car. So, yeah, watch this space. There was rumours it was going to be Christian Horner, and that has obviously been squashed immediately because it's going to be Adrian Newey, the new team principal of Aston Martin. Right, I think that's pretty much everything covered from Vegas. Another decent race, I'd say. It wasn't maybe the best that we've seen, of the kind of last few that we've had. But again, it's Vegas, it's all the kind of razzmatazz that goes with it, and it's all part of the show. But yeah, another year done for Vegas. But before we get on to Qatar, we've got a little change to the podcast here. We've got a bit of a ranking that we're going to do, and considering we've got a bit of a championship fight on at the minute, it just seemed like the right time for us to rank our top 5 best ever title fights. Now, this is mainly going to be modern F1, unless you guys have really done some research here and you've dragged up some 1970 whatever championship fight between James Hunt and Niki Lauda or something, and you're going to catch me out here. But we are mainly going to say modern title battles, and obviously I think some that are watching or listening could already be guessing what the number 1 is going to be, but we're going to work our way up from number 5. Who would like to go first? I probably should have planned this of who's going to go first. Anyone ready to go with their pick? I'll take that as a no. Well, JP, I'll put you on the spot. Go on. What's your number 5?
Number 5, I will say modern F1.
Yeah.
So let's say after we get into 2000s, 2003.
Ooh, I like it. That's not in my top 5, but I like it.
We got Montoya, we got Raikkonen, we got Schumacher, and Alonso both was in 4 points, I believe.
Yeah, quite a tasty title fight, that one, because reliability played quite a big factor, and that was in the real middle of the Schumacher and Ferrari domination of the early 2000s. And that was the toughest year for Schumacher by far, because obviously Kimi was very, very close in Japan, and like I say, if he wasn't as unlucky that season, he could have took that title. But I like it. I like that kind of thinking, JP. Tudor, I'm going to put you on the spot next. What title fight is coming in at number 5?
Probably the 2008 title fight with I forgot his name. It was Lewis Hamilton and
Yep.
a driver at Ferrari.
Felipe Massa.
Felipe Massa, right? Yeah. Again, controversy with Massa being more of a second driver and more helping Schumacher out, even though it wasn't, if I remember, that was the right season. And it's still a drama until now. Massa still trying to fight for his championship in the courtroom, if I remember. So yeah, it's still an ongoing drama, and I think it was quite close. Yeah, 1 point difference.
Interesting. I'm surprised you've got that number 5. I'm going to be interested to see what you've got coming up, because I've got that as well, but a little bit higher up in my list. But at number 5, I've got the 2007 title fight. Not necessarily because of the entertainment of the battles or anything. It wasn't necessarily a great season for that, but of how close of a championship it was, and the drama that we had towards the end. We obviously had the two McLarens of Hamilton and Alonso dominating really most of the season, and Hamilton obviously in his rookie season against the reigning 2-time champion of Fernando Alonso. But it all kind of fell apart in the final rounds, and an infamous moment of Hamilton beaching the car at the China pit lane allowed Kimi Raikkonen to come back and snatch the title by a single point at the very, very death in Brazil. So I've got that in at number 5. Tudor, I'll go straight back to you. What have you got in at number 4?
Probably 2016 with Rosberg and Hamilton.
Yeah.
It was it was a weighted championship fight. Honestly, Rosberg was at Mercedes since day one, and then Lewis Hamilton shows up, starts beating Rosberg like Lewis did with Alonso at McLaren, and well, yeah, Rosberg wasn't really happy that or not, he wasn't a rookie anymore, but the new guy immediately starts beating him, and he's pretty much prepared for many seasons on until 2016, where he just gave it his all and managed to win that title again with some drama. If I remember at Kota in the cooldown room, they were fighting quite a bit.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a great season, and definitely had a lot building up to it, because I mean that kind of thing in the cooldown room at Kota, that was actually 2015, but I guess in some ways that does actually support still what came in 2016 of the drama between those two drivers. But what about you, JP? What is coming in at your number 4?
I was gonna say 2016 also, but for the fun, let's choose something else. Let's say
you're thinking this on the spot, aren't you? You've not got a list there.
Let's say 2017. Actually,
2017. Yeah.
Let's grab out the Ferrari hype train. Yeah, and that was the year when Ferrari seriously back in form, like for the modern age, after Fernando left. So it was a bit of tough year since 2013 for Ferrari, which after the Pirelli changed their tire, let's say compounds after Silverstone, because of these massive 4-car punctures, and the Ferrari's form never came back. 2014 was utter garbage. 2015 they went back a little bit when they downfall again in 2016, which they got no win again. 2017 was arguably one of the best Ferrari season over the past 10 years. The team working in great shapes. Everyone is helping each other. Kimi is helping Sebastian a lot. Seb was at that time, I believe, still in his prime, and the car handles the way he wants, a bit at least. Just seem not quite get the engine power he wants. So yeah, and also around mid season they are still like pretty much level on points, and so yeah. Unlike 2018, which their momentum shifted down to shot down dramatically, like after Singapore, I believe, which Lewis did a dramatic lap in qualifying, and no one can catch that. And so yeah, it was a good season for Seb. It was a good season for Kimi, good season for Ferrari, and yeah, we all. I remember we all had the hope of Ferrari can win the championship next year, which well we all know how that ended up. So yeah, it was a promising year for Ferrari. Mercedes didn't necessarily got the package, but got through with some Lewis' greatest driving. Like in Mexico, he drove with half a car. He got his rear diffuser is broken, his floor was broken, but he still climbed back to clinch his championship title in Mexico. So that was for me, yeah, number 4.
Okay. At number 4 for myself, I'm gonna make a late change with this one, and I'm gonna put 2016 here in at number 4. I did originally have 2008, but I'm actually gonna have 2008 below the top 5 now, just because of the kind of controversy that's going on with that in the minute. But it's mainly just remembered for the last lap in Brazil. But I'm going with 2016. I think just because of the drama and the heated rivalry between Hamilton and Rosberg, I'm going to go with that in number 4. I'll go back to JP with your number 3 pick. What championship fight have you got in number 3?
I got 2007.
Okay.
So yeah, it was from story side, it was the one of the best championship fight I've ever seen. Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Tudor? What's coming at number 3 for yourself?
I wanted to put 2007 as well because I'm a Ferrari fan and that's their last driver championship. So that's the closest year I can be happy about, honestly.
I like it. It's interesting how you guys have got that in at number 3. I have gone with 2010 as my number 3 pick. I feel like a lot of people sleep on this season quite a bit because of a similar thing again, of obviously not having too many amazing battles, but we obviously had some great races. But for me, with 2010, it was obviously the amount of drivers that were in the mix right the way through the season. You had both Red Bulls, Alonso in the Ferrari, both McLarens until the kind of final part of the season where they kind of tailed off a bit. And it was won by a driver going by the name of Sebastian Vettel, picking up his first ever title, where he didn't actually lead the championship all the way until the very last race of the season. You had Mark Webber having his best season ever, really, because he never had one as good as this. And Fernando Alonso, newly in the Ferrari, scrapping it out for most of the championship. But then Vettel came in right at the very end. You had races like Korea, where Mark Webber obviously had that crash at the start of that race, which blew his chances. It was kind of every race, it was unmissable in terms of what would happen next. And for me, although even the finale, wasn't exactly the greatest race, with Alonso and Webber being a bit stuck behind Vitaly Petrov, just for the kind of storyline and the amount of contenders, at number 3, I've got 2010. Tudor, what is your number 2 pick?
My number 2 would be 2012. It's again another win for Sebastian. Many winners at the start of the season, so it's quite entertaining. And I don't know if 2012 was also where Vettel had his comeback from 34 points. Yeah, so
Yeah,
it reminds me a bit of this season with Max, which is again in a Red Bull, having a even larger comeback from 34 points to 102 points or whatever it was. And it will be quite an achievement if he can beat that record with 70 points more. I think it will be a record to last quite a long time in the books.
Absolutely. I think 2012, I've got that in as 2 as well, actually. I think that is an amazing season, arguably the best season ever. But in terms of title fight, it was great as well. I mean, that finale in Brazil was just ridiculously good with how that kind of swayed around, and we didn't know who was going to win the championship right until the end. And obviously, Vettel getting spun around on that first lap as well just added to the drama that was already brewing up. What about you, JP? What is coming in at number 2 for yourself?
I was gonna say 2012, but I do think 2010 is a little bit better than 2012, like a
Okay.
little bit. But I do feel a bit of slight different opinion. I feel like 2010 would be a bit more like this year, a little bit. Like everyone was intriguing for it. No one saw the outcome. So yeah, one of the greatest for me.
Okay. I'm very intrigued to see what your number 1 is going to be. But Tudor, I'll let you go first. What is your number 1 title battle of kind of recent F1 history?
I mean, it's quite obvious.
Yeah.
2021. I mean, it was drama all throughout the whole season at Monza, Silverstone. It was tight the championship again throughout the whole season. There was also some. I mean, it doesn't. It's more over the season, but there were some nice winners like Ricciardo at Monza or Pierre Gasly's podium, which all kept it entertaining and a bit split up in between Max and Lewis. And yeah, with the whole point culminating at Abu Dhabi thanks to Latifi and the weird decision made for all the lap cars to pass the safety car, which I think that was the first time something like that happened in Formula One. And yeah, the championship battle down to the final turns of the final lap.
Yeah. It doesn't. I don't think it gets any better than 2021 in terms of title fights, because it was, all the way throughout the season, right from the get-go, every qualifying session, every race, you're just kind of forensically saying, oh, who's ahead of who, whether it's Hamilton or Verstappen. And I absolutely agree. I've got it at number 1. And there's some amazing races from that season. Russia was a good one. Monza. You've got the Brazil race where there was the controversy there, Saudi Arabia as well, and that's just not including, the grand finale at Abu Dhabi where it was indeed decided controversially on the final lap. I'm sure there'll be a little war in the comments on what they think of that as a number 1 pick, but we're both saying that. Are you agreeing, JP? Is this going to be a full house of 2021?
Yeah, surely 2021. It was the greatest battle I've ever seen. Like I've watched Formula One, maybe a bit young, but that was definitely the best. I'm sure this is the best championship I've ever seen in Formula One. Like from lap 1 in Bahrain to last lap, literally last lap in Abu Dhabi, to like storming through the field. Every race, they were about half a minute ahead of everyone else, like Valtteri or Checo, and they were just within 1 or 2 seconds within each other, and like Fridays all year long, non-stop. Like you can't even really save the tires at these races. Like you have to push all flat out, and with what happened in Silverstone, what happened in Hungary, what happened in Monza, what happened in Brazil, in Saudi Arabia, and in Abu Dhabi, all these controversies, which add the spice a bit more up. Yeah.
Yeah, it is truly a classic championship, and it deserves to be number 1 in the greatest title battles of recent F1 history. I think you've made a little muck up there, JP, because 2012 isn't in your top 5. Unless I misheard you, you've not got 2012
Yeah,
in your top
it's
5.
not. It's not. It's not. I know. It's not.
Why? Why? Explain yourself. 2012
Well,
was an amazing battle between Alonso and Vettel.
well, I got a little preference because I do like Kimi, so that's why 2003 and 2007 was in my list. So yeah,
I like
and
you.
yeah, and to be honest, from start to the end, like after the summer break, to be honest, I just believed Vettel should get it. Like, I don't really see much of a chance for Fernando. Like, I know it's 44 points behind but after the DNF for Fernando in Suzuka, I don't see any chance for him. Like seriously, like just like Ferrari's like long time pace is good, but when they need to start to push for one lap, the Ferrari just never clicks on that year. Never clicks on.
Absolutely. Well, that was our top 5 then of the greatest battles for the title. If you enjoyed that little segment on the podcast, do like the podcast as well, and let us know in the comments what your top 5 is, and if you'd like to see some more of those kind of rankings in the future. Moving on though to the final part of this week's episode, it is indeed the preview of the 2025 Qatar Grand Prix, the penultimate round of the season, where we could see Lando Norris crowned world champion for the very first time in his career. I'm going to put you both on the spot here, and I want to hear your predictions, because we're going to obviously do the race prediction later, but this could be the moment. The next time we do an episode, we may already have our new world champion. So, Tudor, I'll go to you first. Is Lando Norris going to be world champion come the end of this weekend?
Yeah, I can see it honestly. Max might win the sprint, but again, it's a sprint. Points matter at the end of the season, but Norris will most likely come right out behind him, so that's just 1 point loss. But I think Norris' pace in the main race at Qatar will just be better than Verstappen, and yeah, he'll just win. And
Okay.
Verstappen probably around P3, so yeah, that'll be Norris championship.
Wow. What about you, JP? Are you thinking this is going to be the weekend?
Nope, absolutely no.
Ooh, okay. A disagreement. Go on. Why?
Like, my opinion is like 118 degrees different. I feel like McLaren should able to get the clicks right in the sprints. Like their car is just easier to set up in a sprint weekend, as we all know. Red Bull is always having a rough time, as we can see. Last year, he nearly didn't even get the points in Qatar sprint. He was behind Hulkenberg's Haas at one point. No, actually at the finish line. So yeah, it will be a tough time for Red Bull to set up their car properly. But once the car was set up properly, as we can see from last year quali, Max is a different level. Like, maybe someone can glitch a little bit, but Max should tops it. And for race pace, it was a Max track. And I do believe the right high for McLaren will fumble them. I really do believe that will fumble them in Qatar.
Are you having that, Tudor? Are you having what JP is saying there, or is he kind of not speaking the truth?
No, I mean, yeah, I like the title fight to go all the way to Abu Dhabi, but yeah, the right height might be a problem, because when a team starts off the season really strong and everyone's behind, by the end of the season, everyone will catch up to you, and you're just gonna be trying to find more pace out of nowhere. And I think McLaren's starting to panic a bit and trying to lower the car even more, which isn't working for them. It's just turning out like Ferrari. But yeah, I mean, it's Max track, like JP said, but it's also a McLaren track in general. So he might have some troubles with them.
Okay. So myself and JP are saying that Verstappen will stay in the mix, because I agree with that. I think Verstappen will outscore Norris this weekend. I obviously know the answer to this one, what I'm about to say from you, Tudor, but JP, do you think Piastri can keep it alive? You know, he has got quite a good record at Qatar and has won, obviously, a sprint race here in 2023. Can he keep the championship alive?
Maybe, just maybe, there's still a little bit of hope. We all know that Oscar's pace right now is like, they're not good. They are really not good. But Qatar was like really he was never slow in Qatar, even in F2. Like, he was never slow. So yeah, I feel like this is a track for him to build up his way back. Not saying he necessarily will win this race. Like, I don't really think so, but I do feel like he maybe can outscore Lando just 1 or 2 points, and stay still inside, but just it's a narrow
outside.
hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that your prediction then? You think that will happen? Yeah. JP, is that your prediction? You think
Yeah.
that will happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That will still happen. Yeah, we should get it to last round with 3 all people.
I wouldn't mind it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I can see Piastri beating Norris over the course of the weekend. So I'm going to say no. I think Piastri will get knocked out of championship contention this weekend. But I think for all neutrals, you want it to be a three-way fight going into Abu Dhabi because then it just adds an element of unpredictability. Piastri actually came out and said in the presser today that they have actually had very, very brief conversations at McLaren about the prospect of Piastri helping Norris in these final couple of rounds to secure the British driver the championship, with Verstappen looming as a threat in the background. Piastri very quickly said, though, that this was rejected immediately and that he still believes he can win this championship and he will not be helping Lando whilst he is particularly still in the mix. Do you agree with that, Tudor? There's been a lot of controversy this season, kind of been driven up by Piastri fans, that McLaren favour Norris and, they're kind of sabotaging Piastri championship, which personally I don't quite believe. But what do you make of the fact that he's came out today and said that they are actually already have had that conversation of Piastri basically giving up on the championship and helping Norris?
I don't think they're sabotaging Piastri, but I think there might be a bit of favoritism. Strella, I think, likes Piastri more, and Zach might like Norris more. But I don't think Piastri would agree with helping Norris to win the championship because Mark Webber is his manager, and he was that second driver when he was driving, and he didn't like that at all. And I don't think he wanted to see Piastri be sitting Weber's boots like he did. I think he wants to. I think he talked to Piastri that there is still a chance to win the championship. And if I was him, I would just honestly go for it all. There's nothing to lose. Either win the championship or come P2 or P3, which I don't think I wouldn't mind if either don't win the championship if I come second or third in it. I'll want to risk it all to have a chance at least to win.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying there. What about you, JP? Do you think there's any bias at McLaren?
Well, yes, a bit, but like not big ones. Maybe a bit. On the guys in McLaren liked Orlando a bit more, liked Oscar a bit more. It was natural. Like everyone has a preference. You're in a championship fight. It's pretty natural to have that. But the thing is that I feel like for these two team principals or CEOs, let's say that, I feel like Trudeau is absolutely correct. I feel like Stella is a bit on Oscar's side and Zach is a bit on Lando's side. Um, well, but it was kind of getting neutral. But McLaren is always kind of trying to play the safe game to make sure it's fair. But in the end, it's it just makes everybody unlucky, which will make everybody feel sad. To be honest, like Lando has before Singapore, I don't believe he has a normal pit stop like before Singapore. Like it was all 3.5 plus seconds pit stops, and Oscar, like his car was. Well, people say his car was never the same. Maybe he's not good at these tracks. Maybe the car isn't the same. But people will have this conspiracy theory across in the air to say that McLaren did something to his car just to make sure it is fair. So, but yeah, I feel like just McLaren a little bit overdo it. They want to keep it fair, and I believe it is a bit fair, but it's fair only because everybody is unfair. If you can see what I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I personally don't think. I think there is an equal treatment of both drivers. I think Piastri's just has confidence not this season, particularly races like Azerbaijan where he had a real nightmare, and then Norris got on top of his form. There's no doubt about it. Norris is driving the best he's ever driven. I would go as far as to say in his career in terms of the final part of the season. And I think that's just kind of rattled Piastri a bit in terms of confidence. and he's struggling to recover from it. So, but if there is a time for him to snap back into his old form of earlier in the championship, this would be the weekend, because he absolutely has to do that now if he wants to stay in the mix for the title. Right, let's get into our predictions then, the final part of this week's podcast. Who are we saying then, Tudor, who is going to be on pole position for the 2025 Qatar Grand Prix?
I think it's gonna be Norris on pole and Max close behind him. It's gonna again, like most of the season, the fight's gonna be in qualifying more than the race.
So Norris, pole position. What about you, JP?
I'm gonna say something bold. Oscar Piastri.
Ooh, I like it. And you know what? I'm saying the same thing. I'm gonna say Oscar Piastri will take pole, just to throw a little bit of jeopardy into the mix there. Right, what about our podium? I'll go back to you, JP. From third, second to first, how is your podium?
Only the main race, not the sprint, right?
Yeah,
Only
sprint. Screw that. The sprint is. We'll find out what happens. But for the main race, what's your podium looking like?
Third place, George Russell.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. I see the thinking.
Second place, Oscar Piastri. First place, Max Verstappen.
So Piastri will keep the championship alive then? Or is there something that's going to happen in the sprint?
Yeah.
Okay. I see now. So what's going to happen to Norris in the race?
Slow pit stop. Typical McLaren stuff,
I think
it won't necessarily be slow, but it will, McLaren tend to fumble a little bit, like when the pressure really came into them.
You're giving any McLaren fan the fear right now, or Norris fan, should I say?
Yeah, it was a bit fear. Yeah, that happens to McLaren. Like, it was not even the first time,
Yeah, this is where the Norris fans turn this podcast off, because they don't want to hear that. That is for sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Tudor? What's your podium looking like?
I think it's gonna be the top three contenders. It's gonna be probably Piastri in third, Norris in second, and Max wins the race.
Okay. Interesting. I'm torn here. I'm torn about, how effective will McLaren be with the whole floor issues they've had. I think in third, I'm going to go with Lando Norris in third, with then George Russell in second place, and then Max Verstappen to win the race. I think Mercedes should be quite competitive here. And I think with the kind of tires being kind of capped at 25 laps, I think that will help them, and it will bring other teams into play a little bit more. Because I think we saw this a little bit a couple of years ago when that rule was previously introduced. And yeah, I think it could be a very exciting weekend of racing, and the sprint race again will be absolutely critical to deciding what happens. We're going to wrap it up though at this point, because we've had plenty to get through in this week's podcast. But thank you to you both. Thank you, Tudor and JP, for joining me.
Thank you
on this episode 109. We'll be back next week for the final preview of the season, which is crazy to say that out loud, but it'll obviously be looking ahead to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and we'll be reflecting on the events from Qatar. But if you've enjoyed this episode, you can follow us on your audio platform of choice, whether you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can obviously subscribe to the channel. We had quite a load of new subscribers and a lot of views on the last podcast, so all the support is much appreciated. And the more you do, the better the channel will become. We'll be back then in the next episode, and we'll see, will Lando Norris be crowned world champion for the very first time, or can Verstappen and Piastri keep this battle alive till Abu Dhabi? We'll see you next week.